Welcome back to my shop. In this video, I'm going to start making a woodworking bench. I've got the plans. I bought a big chisel. I'm not sure what else I need. I bought these plans a long time ago. I even started making some of the parts and been moving them around and stepping over them for the last 10 years. I've got parts underneath my outfeed table here. I laminated a top together last year. I have had vices for it kicking around underneath my skateboard over there for a couple years. And yes, I have a skateboard. I'm old enough to know better. So I think the first thing we'll do is get everything in one place. Let's unbox this stuff and see what I'm working with here. Starting over here, we have a 12-inch Rockler end vise. From Benchcrafted, I got these little scissor things which eliminate the need for the other little thing to support the bottom of a leg vise. Enjoy those technical terms. Here's the screw for the leg vise. I sometimes do molds for leather, and so I got this big vise, woodworking vise here, 9-inch Yost vise. I'm pretty sure I'm going to use it, but I'm not sure yet. I got some wheels to move it around. They need to be put together. Here's the legs I made 10 years ago, and this is like a dead man that slides back and forth for support for the leg vise. And then there's the wood I cut underneath there it's for a platform at the bottom to accumulate clutter and dust. And of course, I've got the directions and the big chisel I wanted. Hopefully I'll need it. I think we'll start with the legs. So the directions call for the legs to be 32 inches long, which these are. They match the dimensions. And a 1-inch tenon at the top, so I need to make that, and chamfer the bottoms. My top is about 4 inches thick, which would make the top of the workbench about 35 inches. And they say a workbench should be up to your knuckles. So this bench might be a little bit tall, so I'll just throw on some heels. So I'll cut the tenons in, I'll put the chamfers on the bottom, and then I'll have to figure out which leg's going to go where. Yes, you're a good boy. You're a good boy. I felt like I got a good start today, but then my buddy Andy called, and we went to this junk store, and I got this chisel, 2 inches wide. I got a big pair of scissors. Not that I needed them, but I wanted them. And I got a gouging chisel. That ought to be handy for this project, possibly. That's how I justified it to myself. And I got one of those old drills. So that kind of put a stop to any work today. So I will pick this up in the morning. All right, good morning. I'm here at the table saw this morning. I've got my miter gauge with a bit of scrap on it. My legs are here. I've got the front face down because that's going to be the deepest cut. So I'm going to get my depth of my dado stack set using the front. And then for the height of the tenon, I'm using a 1-2-3 block. And if you're not familiar with that, it's for machining. It is 1 inch thick, 2 inches wide, and 3 inches long. So very handy. So I set that against my fence, and I measured 1 inch to the farthest part of the dado stack. So I will bring that back here. I'll bring my leg against it, and then go into the stack. And that way I'm not riding alongside the fence going through the dado stack with all this leg sticking out here. Tenons are all cut. I got a bit of cleaning up to do with a chisel, but that dado blade really kicks up a lot of dust, so I'm going to turn my air cleaner on and go check on the goats. Ernie, how are you, buddy? Huh? Oh, you're starting to warm up now, aren't you? It's cold out here. How are you, Bert? These guys are okay out here in the snow. As long as they're dry and out of the wind, they don't mind the temperatures. But I did give them a bit of food this morning, so they didn't have to root around in the snow. You could use a bit more straw, looks like. Fun and games are over. This is the mechanism, or the crisscross, for the leg vise. At least half of it. The other half gets mounted onto the chop, or the movable part of the leg vise. This needs to get recessed into the leg, and I'm going to let the CNC do it. So I programmed it, and I just need to line it up and start the program. And it's going to take 12 passes to get down 1 inch and 7/16, which is the depth of the pocket. All right, that's all machined out. I had to take the dust cover off here because the thickness of the cover, the part that holds the bristles, was going to hit this knob here, so I had to pause it halfway through. It took about 1.5 hours though to run that program. The drawings say to cut this part 2.5 inches. This is actually larger than 2.5 inches. I need to drill the hole for the leg vise screw going through this leg. This leg is 3.5 inches thick. I have a Forster bit that's 1.25 inches, but it's not deep enough. So I'm going to have to drill through this side and flip it over and drill the remaining through the other side. I do have some space bits. Oh, come on, 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, 1 3/8. Everything but 1.25 inches. So, back to plan A. I probably should have went and got a spade bit. This has dug itself in there pretty good. That's not a bad result. It's off about 1/16 of an inch. Next thing I need to do is lay out where the mortises go for the cross pieces between all the legs. I am just going to mark these legs where the tenons go, tenons and mortises, so that even I can't screw it up. I'm also going to deviate from the plans here a little bit. They call for some of the rails to be held in with bolts, and that's for breaking it down if you're going to move it. I don't intend on moving anytime soon, so I am going to use mortise and tenon all the way around and pin them with dowels. All right, I've just got back from my friend Andy's house. I've sharpened my new cheap chisel. And I'm going to knock out this recess for the scissor bracket. It only needs to open up a very little bit, and so what I did is I just put this piece of wood here to give me a nice straight edge, and for a spacer I just used a little ruler here, so that's nice and smooth, so I'm consistent. And this is just kind of like training wheels for a chisel. So I just hold my chisel nice and flat to the wood. I think I've got a bit more flattening to do on this to make it work better. This chisel worked really nicely. Obviously, I'm no expert with hand tools, which is why I'm building a bench, so I can become better with hand tools. You gotta start somewhere. Okay, so let's continue on with the legs. I need to lay out where the mortises are gonna go. As I mentioned before, I'm going away from the drawings for this part of it, for the rails. I'm going to just use mortise and tenon. I'm going to do a 1/2 inch mortise because I've got a 1/2 inch mortising bit. So I'm just going and marking all the legs first with a 1/2 inch, and then I'll go back afterwards and mark the kind of the start and end to the mortise. Now that I've got my mortises all marked out on all 4 legs, I am going to head over to my mortiser and get that set up. Well, I have half of them done. Unfortunately, my mortiser is not tall enough to do the tall side of the legs. So I'm going to have to put a 1/2 inch Forster bit into my drill press and do it that way. So let's get started. So that's all the mortises roughed out. I have a couple of hours worth of work probably to clean them all up. So I'm going to wrap up this video here. Next time we come back, I will be cutting the rails and probably assembling the bench. And probably a third video of attaching all the vices. So I'm going to leave it here for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.